The first night I worked at the Glenmore Inn, my manager Patricia handed me a key card and a printed sheet of room assignments and told me that if anyone called down asking about room 307, I should tell them the room was out of service for renovations. She said this without looking at me. She was sorting through receipts and her voice had that flat tone people use when they're repeating something they've said 100 times. I asked her what was wrong with the room. She said nothing. I asked why we were lying about it. She said because that's what we tell people. Then she handed me the master key and walked out the back door for her smoke break. The Glenmore Inn is a 4-story hotel just off the interstate in central Pennsylvania. 62 rooms, mostly truckers and contractors, and the occasional family driving through to somewhere better. The night shift runs from 11 at night to 7 in the morning. It's just me and a housekeeper named Lynn who comes in at 5 to start prepping breakfast. From 11 to 5, I'm completely alone in the building. I took the job because I was 28, and between things and the hours fit my sleep schedule, and the pay was just barely enough to cover rent and groceries. I wasn't expecting much from it. I was expecting boredom. I was expecting to read a lot. I was not expecting any of what came later. The first week was uneventful. I checked people in. I made coffee. I read most of a novel I had been putting off for years. I forgot about Patricia's instruction because nobody asked about room 307. I had no reason to think about it. The hotel was old but well maintained. The lobby had that faded carpet smell mixed with industrial cleaner. The walls were beige. The art on the walls was the kind of generic landscape paintings you see in dental offices. Everything about the place was forgettable, which is exactly what made it stand out when something finally wasn't. On my 8th shift around 2 in the morning, the phone at the front desk rang. The display showed an internal extension, room 307. I picked it up and said front desk. There was no response. Just static. Then I heard breathing, slow and steady, not heavy, not labored. The kind of breathing someone does when they're sitting completely still and not aware they're being heard. I said hello again. The line went dead. I checked the system. Room 307 was listed as occupied. The guest's name was blank. The check-in date was blank. The checkout date was blank. There was no record of anyone ever booking that room, but the system showed it as occupied. I went to the printed sheet Patricia had given me on my first night and looked at the room assignments. Room 307 wasn't on it. None of the printed sheets I had been given over the past week had room 307 on them. The room existed in the digital system, but had been quietly removed from every paper record we kept at the front desk. I took the elevator up to the 3rd floor. I didn't really have a plan. I think I just wanted to see the door. The hallway on the 3rd floor smelled faintly of bleach. The carpet was that industrial pattern that hides stains. I walked past 301, then 303, then 305. Then I reached the spot where 307 should have been. There was a door there. The number was missing. You could see the slightly cleaner rectangle of paint where the brass numbers used to be screwed into the wood. The peephole had been covered from the inside with what looked like black tape. I stood in front of that door for a long time. I didn't knock. I don't know why I didn't knock. Something about the door felt wrong in a way I couldn't articulate. Like the air around it was a different temperature than the rest of the hallway. I held my hand a few inches away from the wood and I could feel cold coming off it. Not just cool, cold, like there was no heat in the room behind it. Like the room was venting its temperature out into the hallway. I backed away slowly. I went back to the elevator. I wrote it down. The phone on the front desk was ringing again when I got back to the lobby. Same extension. I let it ring until it stopped. The next night, I asked Patricia about it before she left. She was putting on her coat. I told her about the call, about the breathing. I told her I had gone up to look at the door. She stopped buttoning her coat and turned and looked at me for the first time in a week. Her face was completely flat. She said, "Don't go up there again." I asked why. She said because the people who have don't work here anymore. I asked her what that meant. She said it means what it sounds like. Then she finished buttoning her coat and walked out the back door. I stood there in the empty lobby for a long time after she left. Over the next 2 weeks, I got 6 more calls from room 307, always between 2 and 3 in the morning. Always silence followed by breathing. I stopped picking up after the 3rd one. I would just watch the phone ring and let it go to voicemail. The voicemails were always the same, 45 seconds of silence and then a click. I saved them all on my personal phone because I didn't believe I would remember them otherwise. I would sit at the desk in the middle of the night and play them back through my headphones and listen to that breathing, trying to tell if it was a man or a woman, trying to hear if there was anything in the background, a television, a radio, a vent, anything. There was nothing, just the breathing and the silence around it. On the night of November 14th, I was making coffee when I heard the elevator move. I hadn't called it. There were no guests in the lobby. I watched the floor indicator above the doors. It went from G to 3. It stopped on the 3rd floor. It sat there for almost a full minute. Then the indicator changed and the elevator started coming back down. I stepped behind the front desk. I don't know why. Some instinct told me not to be in the open when those doors opened. The doors slid open on the lobby floor. The elevator was empty. I walked over and looked inside. There was a single room key card sitting in the middle of the floor, the kind we issue to guests. I picked it up. The little black strip on the back was dirty, smudged with something dark. I held it for a moment and then I scanned it on the desk reader to see what room it had been programmed for. The screen blinked once and showed me a room number, 307. I dropped the card on the desk like it had burned me. Then I picked it up again and put it in the bottom drawer and locked the drawer. I don't know why I did that either. It just felt like something I shouldn't leave out in the open. That night, I didn't go to the bathroom even though I needed to. The hallway leading to the staff bathroom was past the elevator, and I didn't want to walk past those doors. I held it for the rest of my shift. When Lynn came in at 5, I was almost shaking with relief. I went to the bathroom and then I sat in my car in the parking lot for 15 minutes before I could drive home. The next afternoon, I went to the public library and I looked up the Glenmore Inn in old newspaper archives. There wasn't much, a few articles about renovations in the 90s, a small write-up when the current owners bought it in 2008, but buried in a 2003 article about local crime statistics, there was a sentence that mentioned an incident at the hotel that year. A woman had been found dead in one of the rooms. The article didn't list which room. It said the death was being investigated as a possible suicide, but that the investigation was inconclusive. It also mentioned that the room had been sealed off and was no longer in use. It didn't say which room number, but it gave me a year, 2003. I drove to the hotel that night for my shift, trying to convince myself it didn't matter. A lot of hotels have rooms with bad histories. A lot of hotels close those rooms. That doesn't mean anything supernatural. That doesn't mean anything is happening. I told myself that all the way through the parking lot and into the lobby. Patricia handed me the keys without saying anything and left. At 1:45 in the morning, the front desk phone rang. But this time, the display didn't show 307. It showed an outside number, a local area code. I picked up. The voice on the other end was an older woman. She said she was looking for her daughter. She said her daughter had been staying at the hotel and hadn't been answering her phone for 2 days. I asked for the daughter's name. She gave it to me. I checked the system. We had no guest under that name. I told her so. She was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "Are you sure?" I said yes, I was sure. She said her daughter had texted her 3 days ago saying she was at the Glenmore Inn in room 307. She said that was the last text she had received. I felt the floor drop out from under me. I told her there must have been some confusion. I said room 307 was out of service. I said it had been out of service for years. There was a long silence on the other end. Then she said in a very quiet voice she was there. She said she saw the room number in the photo. She said she had a photo her daughter had sent her 3 days ago. I asked her if she could send it to me. She did. I gave her the front desk email. A minute later, the photo came through. It was a selfie taken in a hotel room. A young woman, maybe 25 years old, smiling slightly with the kind of forced smile you do when you're tired. Behind her was a hotel room that looked exactly like every other room in our hotel. Beige walls, floral bedspread, generic art above the bed. But on the wall behind her, you could see the room door, reflected in a small framed mirror that hung next to the bathroom entrance, and the number on the door was visible in the reflection. 307. I told the woman I would call her back. I hung up. I sat at the desk for a long time looking at that photo. Then I did something I shouldn't have done. I took the master key out of the drawer, and I went up to the 3rd floor. I went past 301, past 303, past 305. I stopped in front of the door with no number. The cold was still coming off it. I held the master key up to the lock. My hand was shaking. I told myself I was going to open it. I told myself I was going to look inside. I told myself the woman's daughter was in there and someone needed to help her. I couldn't do it. I stood there for what felt like 10 minutes with the key inches from the lock. My body wouldn't let me put it in. Every instinct I had was screaming at me not to open that door. I lowered my hand. I walked back to the elevator. I wrote it down. I sat at the desk for the rest of the shift, staring at the wall. In the morning, when Patricia came in for her shift, I told her about the woman who had called. I told her about the photo. I showed it to her on my phone. She looked at it for a long time. Her face didn't change. She handed the phone back and said the room was out of service. I asked her what about the woman in the photo. She said there was no woman. I asked her what she meant. She said the room has been sealed since 2003 and nobody has stayed in it since then. I asked her how the daughter got in. She said the daughter didn't get in. I asked her about the photo. She said photos can be edited. She said maybe the daughter was lying. She said maybe the woman who called wasn't really a mother. She had an answer for everything, and none of the answers actually answered anything. I quit 2 days later. I didn't give a notice. I just texted Patricia that I wasn't coming in anymore. She didn't ask why. She just texted back, okay. That was the only response. Okay, like she had been expecting it, like she had seen it before. I never called the woman back. I told myself I would. I told myself I owed her at least that much, but I never did. Every time I picked up my phone to dial her number, something stopped me. I kept thinking that if I told her what I knew, it wouldn't help her find her daughter. It would just make her wonder what had really happened in that room. And I didn't have an answer for that. I still don't. It's been almost a year since I worked at the Glenmore Inn. I drove past it once a few months ago. I don't know why I drove that way. I wasn't going anywhere near it. I just ended up on that road and the hotel came into view, and I slowed down as I passed it. It was nighttime. Most of the windows were dark, but on the third floor, one window had a faint light coming through the curtains. I counted the windows from the corner of the building. It was the room that should have been 307. I sped up and didn't look back. I haven't driven that road since. I still have the voicemails on my phone. I haven't deleted them. I don't know why. I don't listen to them anymore, but I know they're there. Sometimes when I can't sleep, I think about that door at the end of the hallway. I think about how cold the air was around it. I think about the woman in the photo with her tired smile and that reflection of the room number behind her. And I think about the daughter who texted her mother that she was staying in a room that hadn't been rented in over 20 years. And I think about all the people who must have called that room before me and listened to that breathing and never told anyone. And I wonder how long the room has been doing this. And I wonder how many other rooms and how many other hotels are doing the same thing right now. And I wonder if anyone ever opens those doors. And I wonder what they find when they do.